A mysterious voice echoes through the void, calling out to our boy as the world's final hope. Hanong looks absolutely exhausted, clearly worn down by a destiny he never asked to carry. A spectral hand reaches out to him, desperately pleading for the young man to save their dying world. Suddenly, dozens of these desperate souls swarm him, their silent cries for help weighing heavy on his soul. He stands alone against a literal sea of ghosts, all begging for salvation he isn't sure he can provide. The pressure becomes suffocating as the voices intensify, making Hanong feel like he's drowning in their expectations. Tears finally break through his stoic mask. As the poor kid starts crying out for his mother in this mental landscape, he questions why he was the one chosen to bear such a trash tear burden. He admits to himself that he's reached his limit because being a hero is just too damn hard. His mother appears in the darkness, gently placing a hand on his shoulder and acknowledging her son's deep-seated fear. His mother reminds him he is the world's only hope, but the weight feels like a total curse. She reaches out to comfort him as he lies there, broken and sobbing from the sheer pressure. Her tone shifts instantly, coldly, telling him to quit his whining and just die like a proper hero. Before he can even process the betrayal, 1,000 spectral hands drag him down into the dark abyss. Cold rain splashes against his skin, pulling him back from the trauma of his own suffocating subconscious. Our boy is completely spent, staring at the sky while wondering if he will ever catch a break. He groans while forcing himself upright, surrounded by the ruins of a world that refuses to save itself. He grips his sword with trembling hands, annoyed that his dream of resting was just another cruel lie. Standing tall despite the exhaustion, he prepares to face whatever trash tier monsters are lurking in the downpour. A pack of hulking beastmen closes in, their eyes glowing with a primitive hunger for hero blood. Hanong sigh. Realizing these monsters won't even let him catch his breath for a second, he looks down at the massive swarm of annoying bastards. Knowing he's completely outnumbered, the beastmen snarl and snap their jaws, eager to tear our boy limb from limb. He takes a deep breath, his eyes glowing with a cold, lethal focus as he locks in. Without a hint of hesitation, he dives head first into the trash tier mob with a burst of energy. The monsters can barely react as the savior they were hunting suddenly becomes the predator. He draws his blade in one fluid motion, ready to paint the rainy streets with monster blood. A single massive slash tears through the crowd, sending limbs flying in every direction. He lands a brutal blow, crushing a beastman's skull under his boot like it's nothing. Vaulting back into the air, he prepares to finish off the rest of this pathetic army. Hansong plunges back into the fray, his blade humming with the weight of a world's desperate hope. The impact is absolute. A shockwave of pure power that sends the trash tier beastmen flying like broken ragdolls. But even a hero has his limits, and our boy is gasping for air as the adrenaline fades. He hacks up blood, his body screaming in protest while he uses his sword just to stay upright. Suddenly, a chilling voice echoes through the rain, mockingly calling him the true hero of a dying humanity. A massive purple-scaled nightmare named Fafnir rises from the ruins, completely dwarfing the exhausted warrior with its presence. The beast stares down with a predatory hunger, admitting that the strength our boy possesses is actually enviable. Fafnir introduces itself, its voice vibrating through Hanong and LT, Unk and GT's very bones as he stares up in silent defiance. The dragon looms over the battlefield like a living calamity, making the previous army look like a joke. It declares that he has earned the right to be consumed, promising to make his power its own. The battlefield is a chaotic mess of purple energy and rain. As the final blow lands, our boy hits the dirt hard, hacking up blood as his body finally gives out on him. Every breath is a struggle, and he can barely keep his eyes open through the crimson mask. Fafnir looms over him like a god of death, mocking the very idea of a hero. Below them, the Beastmen army continues to swarm the ruins, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. Monsters fill the sky, ensuring there is absolutely no escape for any survivors left in this hellscape. Hanong stares blankly, the taste of iron in his mouth a reminder of his total defeat. He is haunted by the crushing realization that he failed to protect a single soul despite his power. The dragon laughs at his misery, preparing a strike to end the pathetic life of this so-called savior. As the massive fist descends, our boy accepts his fate, feeling like nothing more than a failure. A distant voice echoes through the void, calling out a name he hasn't heard in a lifetime. Our boy's eyes flutter open, but the hellish battlefield he remembers has been replaced by blinding light. He blinks in disbelief, struggling to process the fact that he is still drawing breath. A bunch of classmates look down on him, asking why he suddenly collapsed like a total weakling. He is utterly dumbfounded, unable to reconcile these peaceful faces with the carnage of his final moments. Bolting upright, he scares the daylights out of his friends who think he is acting like a ghost. The weight of the situation settles in as he realizes he isn't in the afterlife at all. He stares at his unscarred hands, finding them free of the blood and grime of 1,000 battles. Looking toward the horizon, he sees a clear sky that hasn't been choked by draconic smoke for years. While his friend watches him nervously, our boy realizes he has been given a second chance at life. Kim Soo-hyun is still in a daze while this trash-tier bully gets right in his face. The bullies just laugh, thinking he is some weakling who has finally lost his mind. One of them grabs his collar, telling him to shut up and prepare for a beating. Our boy is still struggling to believe these guys are actually standing in front of him alive. The bully loses his patience and swings a heavy fist, aiming to crush him into the dirt. Suddenly, Kim Woo-hoon reacts on pure instinct, catching the punch with a grip like cold steel. Before the loudmouth can even process the situation, our boy prepares a devastating counterstrike. He delivers a clean, brutal punch that connects perfectly with the bully's jaw. The attacker is sent flying back, his ego shattered as he tumbles across the pavement. The rest of the student group stands there, completely dumbfounded by the sudden display of power. Kim Soo-hyun stares at his hand in shock, trying to apologize for the accidental display of brutal strength. The trash-tier bully clutches his face, but the sudden wail of police sirens forces an early retreat. As the punks scramble away, they bark threats about tomorrow, leaving our boy standing there completely dumbfounded. He starts questioning his sanity because everyone is calling him a name that definitely isn't his. The adrenaline fades and the pain kicks in, forcing him to the ground in this confusing new reality. While struggling to stand, he notices a discarded phone lying among the debris of the construction site. He picks up the device, hoping it might provide some answers to this bizarre identity crisis. Our boy scoffs at the ancient tech, wondering why anyone would carry a phone this old. His breath hitches as he stares at the screen, finally noticing something that chills him to the bone. He realizes with horror that the reflection staring back isn't his face, but the face of a stranger. Back in 2042, the world basically went to hell when dungeons started popping up everywhere. These trashier monsters crawled out of the gates, turning every city into a literal graveyard. It was a total massacre as the Beastmen army tore through humanity's peace without a shred of mercy. But then some humans suddenly gained insane powers, becoming the only ones capable of fighting back. Our boy was one of these legendary awakened, standing as a beacon of hope against the darkness. Even after everyone else bit the dust, he kept swinging his blade as the world's last survivor. He was the strongest awakened to ever live. Yet he ended up alone in a dead world. Cut to the present, and a grumpy detective is grilling him about his identity in a police station. Kim Soo-hyun stammers out his name, feeling completely out of place in this weak, unscarred body. The officer keeps pressing for his age, leaving him struggling to remember his own basic birth details. Our boy looks around the station, feeling the cold sweat of a man who clearly doesn't belong here. He spots a calendar on the wall, and his heart nearly stops seeing. The year is 2022. If his memory is right, he should be in 2042, making this a 20-year jump into the past. Since he's stuck in this youthful body, he decides to play along and claim he's 19 for now. Detective Park isn't buying the act, finding it suspicious that this kid only remembers his name and age. Soo-hyun ignores the nagging and wonders if this is just some cruel draconic illusion cast by Fafnir. He vividly remembers the hellish battlefield where he died, a world reduced to nothing but ash and rain. But as he clenches his fist, the sharp sting of reality proves this isn't some trash-tier dream. It finally sinks in that he's actually regressed, leaving him dumbfounded by this impossible second chance at life. Still, he stares at the memory of Hanning and wonders how he'll ever reclaim his former power. Detective Park is fed up and tells him his mother will be there to collect him shortly. He warns our boy to avoid construction sites, mentioning that something suspicious has been lurking around them. Just then, a woman bursts in, her voice trembling as she calls out for her son. She's absolutely frantic, grabbing his face and demanding to know why he's even at a police station. With tears in her eyes, she asks if he's all right, clearly terrified for his well-being. Soo-hyun stands there frozen, realizing he's now face-to-face with the mother of this body's original owner. As they leave, the orange glow of the sunset blankets a city that feels both familiar and foreign. She's suspicious about him forgetting their home address, but he plays it off as simple moving stress. It gets even more awkward when she notices him using formal speech, something he never used to do. Our boy is internally panicking, desperately trying to figure out how to act like a normal teenager. Soo-hyun internally debates if he should just apologize first for all the trouble he's caused her. His mother doesn't wait for an answer, reaching out with a handkerchief to clean his battered face. She mentions the trash-tier bullies from his school, wondering when those punks will finally grow up. As she wipes his cheek, she firmly tells him to speak up if they ever bother him again. She grips his hand tightly, promising that she won't let them off so easily next time. Our boy is completely dumbfounded by her protection, feeling a warmth he hasn't known in years. When she suddenly pauses, he flinches nervously, still struggling to act like a normal, innocent teenager. She looks around the park, noting how strangely empty it is for this time of day. Soo-hyun realizes she's right, and the eerie silence starts to trigger his old combat instincts. Suddenly, a massive claw slams into the pavement, signaling that the piece is officially over. A low growl vibrates through the air as a predator reveals its razor-sharp fangs in the shadows. His mother wonders why he's lagging behind, completely unaware of the monster lurking just a few feet away. Our boy's regressor instincts flare up as he hears the unmistakable sound of claws digging into the ground. Suddenly, a massive beast bursts from the tree in, sprinting toward them with a hunger that's purely animalistic. As the creature lunges, Soo-hyun's heart drops because he knows exactly how much damage these things can do. He reacts in a split second, shielding his mother and leaping away just as the beast strikes air. The monster skids across the pavement, frustrated that its easy prey managed to dodge such a lethal pounce. Staring at the beast, he realizes this isn't just a monster. It's a werewolf, a true trash-tier nightmare. He connects the dots to the police investigation, realizing they were hunting a killer that isn't even human. If these monsters are already here, it means the global outbreak has officially begun much sooner than expected. Back in 2022, outbreaks were peaking, making it common for monsters to spawn right in the city streets. Our boy knows he can't fight barehanded, so he desperately scans for anything that could serve as a weapon. He settles for a discarded umbrella, hoping it'll be enough to pierce through some thick monster hide. His mother is completely dumbfounded, while Soo-hyun warns her to stay still so he can handle the threat. Even though he's stuck in this weak body, he knows these trash tier won't be a problem. The beast lunges with its jaws wide open, aiming to tear his throat out in one swift bite. With regressor-level precision, he drives the umbrella into the beast, proving he hasn't lost his edge. Blood sprays everywhere as the monster realizes it picked a fight with the wrong high schooler. The creature snarls in pain, its eyes glowing with a feral rage as it tries to recover. Suddenly, he senses something off, his instinct screaming that the danger is far from over. Kim Soo-hyun tries to hold the line, but the beast's raw power is way more than he expected. He curses his shallow strike as the monster effortlessly pins his only weapon against the cold pavement. Being stuck in this trash-tier body is infuriating, especially since his old self would have ended this instantly. Just as he wishes for his awakened powers to return, a second predator lunges from the shadows. Our boy's heart sinks when he realizes he's completely outnumbered and pinned down with no escape. Suddenly, his mother throws herself into the fray, desperately tackling the beast to keep it away from him. He stares in utter disbelief, his mind racing as he watches her put everything on the line. Panic sets in as he screams for her, watching the chaotic struggle unfold right before his eyes. The monster brutally tosses her aside, leaving her crashing into the ground while he watches helplessly. He's left completely dumbfounded, wondering why she had risked her life for someone like him. Our boy desperately fends off the beast, but his trash-tier body can barely keep up with the onslaught. He rushes to his mother's side, screaming her name as the monsters circle like vultures. Holding her trembling form, he frantically asks why she had risked everything for a failure like him. She weakly reassures him that she's fine. Though her fading strength tells a much darker story with her last bit of energy, she begs him to survive, leaving him completely dumbfounded and broken. The light leaves her eyes as she goes limp, sending a cold shiver straight through his soul. He stares at the ground in silence, the weight of his failure crushing what's left of his heart. As the beast close in for the kill, a dark, suffocating aura begins to bleed from his very pores. He slowly turns his head, his voice dropping to a growly tone that reeks of pure, unadulterated malice. With eyes glowing like a true predator, he asks the monsters if they're actually looking to die today. The monsters actually flinch as our boy's murderous aura makes them reconsider their life choices. Suddenly, the vision of the apocalypse snaps back to the quiet moonlit park where he stands alone. He tries to move, but his legs buckle, making him realize his current body is absolute trash tear. Both he and his mother collapse onto the cold bricks as his strength completely deserts him. He stares at the sky, utterly dumbfounded by how quickly his energy drained from a simple scuffle. It's a bitter pill to swallow, realizing the former hero is now stuck with such pathetic stamina. Despite the exhaustion, he manages to lift her up, determined to get her to safety before collapsing. His back screams in protest as the injuries from the earlier fight finally start to catch up. He stops dead in his tracks when a nagging thought about his regression finally starts making sense. As the sky turns a deep purple, he realizes the peaceful life he wanted is already slipping away. He finally reaches the apartment. The quiet building, a stark contrast to the chaos he just escaped. His mother collapses onto the sofa, letting out a sigh of relief for finally making it back home. Our boy is gasping for air. Thanking his lucky stars, he found an address inside the wallet. He watches her toss and turn, his heart heavy as he realizes how close they came to disaster. She mumbles his name in her sleep, trying to reassure him that everything is going to be fine. But then her tone shifts, desperately pleading for him to just run away and save himself. Soo Hyun stands there dumbfounded, the weight of her sacrifice finally starting to sink into his soul. He remembers the sight of her facing down those trash-tier monsters just to give him a chance. It hits him hard that she risked her life against the beastmen just to keep him safe. Looking at her now, he realizes he needs to become strong enough to ensure she never suffers again. Soo Hyun stares at his hands, disgusted by how fragile and trashier this new body feels compared to his old one. He clenches his fists, realizing that struggling against a few weak monsters is a pathetic start for a former hero. Our boy starts spiraling, wondering if he was really reborn into such a useless shell just to fail again. The memory of his former self, Hansong, looms over him as a reminder of the mistakes he can't repeat. Suddenly, the air around him glitches with mana as a mysterious system begins to manifest in the room. He takes a deep breath to steady his nerves while the Tower of Trials starts requesting a connection. The system scans his soul, seeking confirmation that he's the right user to handle the upcoming carnage. Once the approval clears, Soo Hyun prepares himself for the reality-bending power that's about to be unleashed. A massive gate to the unknown. Tears open, identifying him as the primary subject for the next trial. As the digital abyss swallows the room, he realizes his journey back to the top is finally beginning. Our boy realizes this body actually has talent, meaning he can finally start over for real this time. He notes that he's diving into the abyss much earlier than he ever did in his past life. With his mind made up, he decides there's absolutely no reason to hesitate on this path. The system officially welcomes him to the Tower of Trials as the digital landscape shifts into place. This realm is commonly known as the Abyss, a hollow where demons are supposedly punished for eternity. Most challengers grind through these floors just to earn the right to be called an awakened warrior. But our boy knows there's a specific system here that matters way more than just clearing floors. The first trial officially kicks off, and the system identifies him as the primary subject for the challenge. When prompted to select a difficulty level, he stares down the prompt with ice-cold focus. He chooses the maximum difficulty of level 10, aiming to master the tower's most brutal hidden mechanics. Our boy knows that higher risks in this tower mean much better loot for his future. He plunges straight into the first floor, ready to face whatever the system throws his way. The arena materializes around him as the system begins calibrating the insane level 10 difficulty. Even though he only reached level 8 before, he wonders if he can actually survive this. He quickly shakes off the doubt, because failing here isn't an option if he wants to win. If he just repeats his past mistakes, he'll only end up dead under Fafner's heel again. A massive arsenal of spectral weapons appears, prompting him to choose his tool for the slaughter. Stone Guardians begin to stir in the distance, sensing a fresh challenger entering their domain. Gripping his blade with white knuckles, he vows to keep moving forward no matter the cost. Hours pass by in the outside world while he's busy grinding through the tower's brutal opening act. Our boy lets out a gut-wrenching scream as the sheer terror of his situation finally breaks him. He collapses to the floor, pathetically begging for a savior while a massive beast closes the distance. Two predatory wolves from the Beastmen army circle him, sensing his weakness and preparing for the kill. He frantically searches the shadows, hoping against hope that he isn't actually alone in this nightmare. One monster lunges with a deafening roar, its fangs inches away from ending his second chance early. Suddenly, his regressor consciousness surges forward with glowing eyes, finally finding the resolve he needs to fight. The cowering boy is left dumbfounded as a massive burst of energy suddenly pushes the predators back. Kimu Hyun leaps into action, delivering a brutal kick that sends one of the trash-tier wolves tumbling away. Gripping a simple umbrella like a legendary sword, he prepares to show these beasts true human strength. He slams a spectral dagger into the earth, unleashing a mana explosion that wipes the monsters from existence. The Beastman army gets shredded as our boy's mana erupts, leaving nothing but dust in his wake. Su Hyen stares them down with cold eyes, promising that not a single one of these monsters will escape. The last trashier wolf whimpers in fear, realizing its supposed prey has become the ultimate hunter. A blinding flash of blue light marks the end of the struggle, erasing the remaining threats instantly. Standing tall, Su Hyun receives the notification that he's officially cleared the first floor's final level. Meanwhile, in the town below, the system updates the rankings, sending shock waves through the local community. A group of players stands dumbfounded, unable to comprehend the impossible score that just appeared. Our boy has claimed the top spot with over double the points of the previous record holder. The news of a rising star spreads through the Tower of Trials like wildfire, drawing everyone's attention. As Su Hyun steps back into the light, the crowd begins to wonder just who this monster really is. Su Hyen finally steps back into the familiar town square, feeling a wave of nostalgia for this brutal place. He looks around with a sharp gaze, knowing exactly how much blood will be spilled in these streets. This is the Tower of Trials, a massive abyss where every single floor contains its own unique world. To advance, every player must face a trial, a rule that remains the only constant in this chaotic tower. While most survivors huddle on the second floor, our boy knows he needs massive achievement points to thrive. Back in the trial zone, he delivers a devastating blow that splits a flying monster clean in half. He stands amidst a pile of trash-tier corpses, catching his breath after the absolute slaughter he just unleashed. A blue system window pops up to confirm his victory, and he wipes the sweat from his brow. Feeling the weight of his blade, he realizes his legendary combat senses are finally starting to return. As the rewards pour in, the system calculates his impossible score and officially ranks him as number 1. Our boy notes his stats are climbing way faster than they ever did in his previous life. With over 2,000 points banked, he figures he is finally ready to tackle the next floor. He arrives at the hub, deciding it is time to go all out on a much-needed shopping spree. He stops in front of a familiar shop, already knowing exactly what he needs to survive. The bell chimes as he steps inside, his regressor knowledge leading him straight to the best gear. A beautiful dark elf greets him with a smile that is clearly designed to empty a player's pockets. She leans in, instantly pegging him as a fresh face who just climbed up from the lower trials. This is a merchant who loves giving recommendations that usually cost more than they are worth. He is not falling for her charms and immediately demands the leap skill to boost his mobility. When he asks for the rare transformation skill next, even the crafty merchant looks a bit caught off guard. Veli lists the steep prices, clearly testing if our boy is just another broke dreamer. He just smirks, knowing his secret stash of points is more than enough to cover the bill. The transaction goes through instantly, leaving the merchant absolutely dumbfounded by the massive payment. She slams the counter in shock, demanding to know where a rookie got that kind of cash. The elf explains that nobody earns that much on the first floor, unless they are a total monster. Su Hyen maintains his poker face, claiming he is just an average guy looking for a fair deal. He makes his exit as the bell rings, leaving the merchant to wonder who he really is. Stepping out into the hub, he takes a moment to appreciate the calm before the next storm. Our boy checks his dimensional pocket, confirming the inventory system is working exactly as he remembered. While sitting on a bench, he audits his new gear and rations to ensure nothing was forgotten. Our boy uses appraisal on his new skill books to see if they are worth the heavy investment. He notes that every skill requires specific mana levels and grows stronger through constant proficiency training. Transformation stands out as a rare growth-type skill, the only one available in the tower's basic store. Along with skills, he pulls out a mana catalyst, an item just as vital for his early progression. This diluted catalyst might be low-grade, but it effectively amplifies his monologue based on his current stats. Most rookies ignore the basic reward shop, but Su Hyen knows exactly which cheap items are actually hidden gems. He realizes that focusing only on climbing the next floor causes most players to miss these essential treasures. Sitting on a bench, he prepares to down the foul-tasting liquid to give his magical abilities a boost. He feels a sense of relief knowing his past life's memories are giving him such a massive head start. Just as he prepares to drink, a shadow looms over him, and a stranger interrupts his quiet moment. A stranger with a massive blade suddenly approaches our boy, catching him completely off guard. Suhune is dumbfounded because he didn't sense the guy's presence until he was right there. The red-haired swordsman quickly apologizes, realizing he might have come on a bit too strong. Looking closer, Su Hyen and LT, Unk and GT. S eyes widen as he realizes exactly who is standing before him. This is Troy Hokjin, a man known as an absolute genius among the awakened in the abyss. However, in the original timeline, he became the primary culprit behind a horrific guild massacre. Back then, he was a cold-blooded monster with a murderous aura that could freeze anyone's blood. Seeing him now, he looks like a totally different person, acting friendly and even a little awkward. Hakjun wonders if he has something on his face since Siyun is staring so intensely at him. Su Hyen shakes off the shock, noting the lack of bloodlust, and asks what the genius wants. Hakjun admits he has been tailing our boy since the shop. Impressed by his sharp eye for gear, Su Hyun clenches his fist in frustration, realizing he let a future monster follow him without even noticing. The red-haired genius leans in with a smirk, preparing to drop a request that catches Su Hune off guard. Feeling the weight of the situation, Su Hune gulps as he tries to predict this psychopath's next move. Suddenly, the murderous aura vanishes as Hakjun begs to join his party like an overexcited golden retriever. Fast forward to the second floor's final stage, where the goal is to survive a high-stakes heist. One of the reptilian guards sniffs the air, sensing an intruder has made off with their precious treasure. The forest floor crawls with soldiers, all of them desperate to hunt down the thief who robbed them. Suhan holds his breath, knowing one wrong move will alert every lizard man in the vicinity to his location. From high above, he watches the search party pass, waiting for the perfect moment to make his escape. He examines the stolen treasure, wondering why the difficulty spike for this stage is so ridiculously high. Turns out the necklace has 0 combat effects, serving only as a heavy burden he must protect. As he ponders the best way to survive the forest, the system's vague instructions start to click. Suddenly, our boy has an epiphany about the true nature of this trial's survival requirement. Below him, a reptilian soldier sniffs the air, closing in on the scent of the intruder. Instead of hiding, Su Hyen drops from the canopy like a predator, catching the lizard man completely off guard. He draws his blade with lethal intent, deciding that the best defense is a total offensive. With one swift motion, he cleaves through the hunter, proving he isn't some trash tier prey to be hunted. He realizes that surviving this forest doesn't mean running away. It means being the last one standing. He stands surrounded, realizing the only way through is to wipe out every single monster in this forest. One lizard man lunges with a spear, but our boy is already moving before the strike even lands. He carves through the first attacker, the system rewarding his lethality with a flood of achievement points. He becomes a whirlwind of steel, leaping between targets until the clearing is painted in reptilian blood. Catching his breath, he admits that while a party might be safer, it would only slow him down. He recalls a time when Cho Hakjin complained about how hard it was to find reliable teammates. Back then, he questioned why the guy was so fixated on a mid-tier challenge like level 8. Hakjin just gave him a knowing look, hiding the dark potential that would eventually consume him. Now, Suhun knows that level 8 is trash tier compared to the absolute peak he needs to reach. With his resolve hardened, he dives back into the fray to continue his one-man massacre. A massive beast looms over our boy, but he doesn't even flinch at the sight of the monster. Su-hyun smirks because the floor boss finally showed its face to give him a real challenge. He launches himself into the air, closing the distance before the creature can even react to his speed. Gripping his blade, he vows to drag this so-called apex predator straight to the bottom of the food chain. With one clean strike, he shreds the boss into pieces, proving his regressor skills are on another level. The system rewards his lethality with a unique necklace capable of healing even the most fatal wounds. Resting by the fire, he realizes hunting these trash tier mobs was the best decision he's made yet. Looking at his status, he notes his stats are climbing way faster than they ever did before. His transformation skill is the secret sauce, allowing him to dissect and understand every enemy habit perfectly. He absorbs the boss's berserker ability, knowing this power-up will be a literal lifesaver during future emergencies. Our boy catches his breath, realizing even trash tier hunts provide massive benefits for his growth. Suddenly, he senses something off, snapping out of his victory high to stay on guard. Turns out his fatigue is hitting critical levels, but he can't help smiling at his progress. He finally heads back to the place he calls home as the sun begins to set. Stepping inside, he stops dead in his tracks, completely dumbfounded by the sight before him. A massive spread of food is waiting. Looking way too good for a normal weeknight meal, he asks his mother why she did all this. feeling a wave of guilt for her effort. Seeing her injured state, he worries that she pushed herself way too hard just for him. She just smiles and says fixing a meal for her son is the easiest thing ever. Looking at her, he realizes that protecting this peace is exactly why he regressed. Our boy stares at the feast, his heart heavy with the weight of 2 lifetimes. It is a spread fit for a king, far better than the trash-tier rations he survived on before. He digs in with a soft thud of the spoon, the act feeling like a sacred ritual. Every bite is a reminder of the warmth he is fighting to keep in this cold world. He silently thanks his mother, knowing these quiet moments are worth more than any legendary loot. Even if he is not her original son, he vows to be the shield she deserves. She watches him eat with a mix of surprise and pure motherly joy. As they share this meal, his resolve hardens to protect this fragile peace at any cost. Later, his sweat-slicked hands hover over the keyboard as he prepares for the next phase. The grind never stops, and he knows one wrong move could send his life spiraling into chaos. The Abyss online community is absolutely losing it over the latest news breaking from the tower. Our boy Kim Soo-hyun has officially claimed the top spot on the 2nd floor with an insane score. The internet is in a frenzy as everyone tries to figure out who this mysterious powerhouse actually is. Back at home, Soo-hyun is sweating bullets as he watches the digital chaos he just unleashed online. He realizes his plan for a quiet climb is trashed here now that he is the center of attention. Meanwhile, over at the Ares Guild headquarters in Gangnam, the big players are finally taking notice. Choi Hakjin stares at his phone, wondering if this top ranker is someone he should actually care about. The guild leader notes the timing of the awakening and asks if Jun knows anything about the guy. Hakjin just gives a sly look, clearly hiding his true thoughts behind that smug and silent expression. He plays it cool, claiming he has never met the guy since the tower is such a massive place. Hakjin plays it cool as the guild leader drops a heavy hand on his shoulder to talk shop. The leader probes about his progress on the 3rd floor, but Hakjin is tackling the brutal level 8. When the leader mentions the sudden rise of Kim Soo-hyun, our boy Hakjun keeps his poker face tight since finding a squad for such a high level is impossible. Hakjun plans to just solo the thing. The guild leader just smirks, clearly satisfied with the cold-blooded monster's drive to reach the top. He tells Hakjun to focus solely on the climb while he handles the task of finding teammates. Just as the conversation seems over, the leader stops in his tracks to deliver one final, chilling reminder. His expression turns dark as he asks if Hakjun truly understands the stakes of their little arrangement. Walking away, Hakjun curses the man's name while being tasked to somehow recruit the mysterious Soo-hyun. Left alone with his thoughts, Hakjun wonders what kind of monster this Soo-hyun guy actually is. Kim Soo-hyun crosses paths with Cho Hakjun, who immediately senses something off about this seemingly ordinary guy. Hakjun finds it hard to believe this could be the monster his boss is so obsessed with finding. He realizes that even if it is him, getting caught up in questions won't help his own climb. Turning away from the city lights, Hakjun resolves to focus solely on his own strength and future progress. As the months blur together, Soo-hyun clears floor after floor while maintaining his facade as a diligent student. His mother warmly tells him to go rest in the countryside since he has worked hard for exams. After perfectly clearing the 9th floor, our boy finally steps out of the house to begin his journey. It has been a full year since his regression, and the weakling he once was is long gone. A train screams past the station as he prepares to leave the city behind for his next trial. Watching the tracks, Soo-hyun admits to himself that this path is taking much longer than he first anticipated. Walking away, our boy is just glad he managed to clear the 9th floor despite those pesky final exams. The 10th floor is next, and since it'll take time, he's using a fake vacation to leave home. In this tower, every 10th floor is a massive wall where the difficulty spikes like crazy for every challenger. Most players take the easy way out by lowering the difficulty, but that just makes future floors even harder. He clenches his fist, knowing he can't afford to take any shortcuts if he wants to survive the end. If he doesn't get stronger right now, he knows the tragedies of his past life will just repeat themselves. He remembers the Inyong outbreak, the first major incident where humanity realized just how screwed they actually were. Then came the New Year's massacre in Gyeonggo, a nightmare of blood and monsters he's desperate to erase. Squinting against the sun, he steels his resolve to rewrite the horrific script of the coming apocalypse. Looking out over the city, he vows that this time he'll definitely be strong enough to protect it all. Our boy finally reaches the massive entrance to the 10th floor, ready to face the next big hurdle. He spots a scruffy old man lounging by the gate who seems to be waiting for a traveler. This isn't just some trash-tier beggar. He's actually the gatekeeper, and he's looking for a little handout. while others would just walk past. Soo-hyun knows this guy holds the keys to surviving the upcoming trial. Without hesitating, he drops 5,000 achievement points into the old man's hands, triggering a bright system notification. The old man is completely dumbfounded by the massive tip, wondering why a rookie is being so generous. Realizing he's dealing with a high roller, the gatekeeper offers to trade some top-secret intel for the points. When Soo-hyun asks for the lowdown on the 10th floor, the old man's expression immediately turns dead serious. He scratches his head, admitting the info is priceless, but he can't just leave his benefactor hanging now. He leans in and gives a chilling warning to watch out for the village chief at all costs. Soo-hyun asks if that's really all the intel he's getting, and the gatekeeper simply confirms it. Even if the hint is vague, our boy knows the old man's word is basically law in this tower. With a final warning ringing in his ears, he steps through the portal toward his next big trial. The system welcomes him to the 10th floor. As he emerges into a world choked by dark mist, when the difficulty prompt appears, he doesn't even blink before aiming for the absolute peak. He locks in level 10, his eyes glowing as he prepares to break this stage wide open. Overlooking a sprawling village, he receives a chilling reminder from the tower to simply not die. The dark clouds hanging over the houses suggest that something nasty is brewing in this quiet town. Our boy suddenly finds himself in a tight spot, desperately explaining he isn't some trash-tier kidnapper. He insists he was just a passerby who saved a kid, but the situation looks pretty suspicious. The local woman isn't buying his story, screaming that she knows he's hiding some shady ulterior motives. Kim Woo-hyun is completely dumbfounded when she claims kidnapping the kid won't get him any loot from them. He tries to sweat out an explanation about the massive misunderstanding, but the village remains cold and silent. Scratching his head, he realizes being labeled a trash-tier kidnapper is way more embarrassing than he ever expected. Our boy can't help but wonder why he's catching all this heat despite literally doing nothing wrong. Unbeknownst to him, a pair of terrified eyes watches his every move from the safety of the shadows. A hidden child trembles in fear, clutching the windowsill while watching the supposed monster walk away. Suddenly, the system forces a quest on him to save this dying village and somehow manage to survive. His boots hit the pavement as he weighs the dreary atmosphere against the pure hostility of the locals. He concludes that the 10th floor is cut from a different cloth compared to the easy previous stages. Kim Soo-hyun ponders the hidden meaning behind the system's sudden demand to save this village and survive. He keeps moving, desperately wondering where he can find even a shred of useful information in this ghost town. Little does he know, dozens of glowing eyes track his every step from the dark corners of the village. Our boy realizes that getting intel from these locals will be harder than clearing a trash-tier dungeon. Even though they're just NPCs, their sheer terror makes them feel uncomfortably like real breathing humans. Looking at the gloomy sky, he notes that this trial feels far too organic to be a simple program. The suffocating atmosphere of despair reminds him far too of the world's final days before his regression. As almost impressed by the twisted theme the tower designers cooked up for those who haven't seen true hell. Letting out a heavy sigh, he feels the weight of the silence pressing down on the entire area. He slumps against a tree, frustrated that he can't find a single soul to point him toward an informant. Just as he's about to give up, a pair of small feet stop right in front of him. Our boy's ears perk up when a small voice calls out to him, catching him completely off guard. A young girl peeks from behind a tree, her eyes wide with a mix of terror and recognition. He offers a stiff greeting, dumbfounded that this child seems to remember him from the previous timeline. Her hands shake uncontrollably as the weight of her memories clashes with the reality standing before her. He studies her carefully, wondering if this kid is the key to unraveling the secrets of this floor. Without a word, he pulls out some wild berries, hoping a small gesture might calm her frayed nerves. The small red fruits sit in his palm, a humble offering in this world of suffocating despair. He watches her reaction, knowing that gaining her trust is more vital than any trash-tier loot. The girl finally manages to stammer out her thanks, her fear slowly giving way to a glimmer of hope. Our boy senses something odd, his regressor instincts putting him on high alert for any sudden threats. He quickly realizes there is no immediate danger and lets out a small, confident smirk. He beckons the trembling girl over, pulling out a bag of supplies to prove he isn't a monster. The kid's eyes practically turn into stars when she sees a spread of food better than trash-tier rations. She doesn't waste a second tearing into the bread like she hasn't seen a real meal in weeks. Seeing her eat with such desperate joy makes even a hardened survivor like him feel a bit dumbfounded. As they sit, He learns the village is starving, turning everyone into cold and paranoid shells of themselves. The girl mentions they only survive because of their village chief, a man she views with pure admiration. Hearing the chief called a hero catches him off guard, making him wonder what he is truly facing. He realizes this is the hidden lore of the floor, piecing together the village's background while she eats. Kim Woo-hyun probes for more info, offering his supplies to help the chief deal with any local monsters. The kid mentions a terrifying beast lurking nearby that threatens to wipe their entire home off the map. She explains the monsters can't enter because the chief did something mysterious to keep the village safe. Our boy senses a deeper plot and asks for details, but a new voice suddenly interrupts their conversation. He turns to see an old man approaching, realizing the person he was just discussing has finally appeared. The old man introduces himself as the village chief, wearing a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. Soo Ho-yoon freezes, remembering the gatekeeper's grim warning that this chief is someone he must absolutely avoid. The chief explains that food is a rare luxury here, and handing it out only breeds dangerous resentment. He continues with a chilling tone, noting that Soo Ho-yoon never bothered to ask for his permission first. Our boy stares back, realizing the hero of this village might actually be its most dangerous resident. Soo Ho-yoon hears a sudden cry for mercy and wonders what kind of mess he has walked into now. He follows the noise and finds the entire village gathered together for a mysterious late-night assembly. The crowd begs for forgiveness through blood, which our boy assumes is just a desperate religious ritual. He watches the scene with a grim expression, recognizing this specific brand of madness from his past. Memories of the apocalypse resurface, reminding him how easily people lose their minds when everything falls apart. In his previous life, he saw many cowards hiding their true, twisted nature behind a mask of belief. These people would often abandon reality entirely, committing horrific acts while claiming to serve a higher power. He knows exactly how this story ends and how ugly things are bound to get for everyone involved. Our boy thinks this group is relatively harmless until a sudden chilling sight leaves him completely dumbfounded. The village chief raises a ritual dagger, declaring that a tainted soul must be sacrificed to their lord. A desperate man begs for a peace that will never come, his fate already decided by the fanatical mob. The ritual blade severs the rope, signaling the start of another cold-blooded execution in the name of faith. He falls into the abyss while the crowd roars. Their humanity long gone in this trash tier survival game. The village chief stands over the closed pit, satisfied with the blood he just spilled for his dark god. Our boy watches in silence, realizing that people are the same everywhere. Vile, selfish, and utterly beyond saving. As Kim Soo Hyun walks away, the villagers gossip about the victim's family, proving they value tradition over life. They truly believe these sacrifices are the only thing keeping them safe from the horrors outside their walls. The cowards breathe a sigh of relief for now, glad it wasn't their turn to face the darkness. Their eyes burn with a sinister light as they realize there is still one outsider left in their midst. In the quiet of his office, the village chief begins planning the next ceremony to keep his power intact. The village chief asks his subordinate for an update, wondering if the outsider has done anything suspicious yet. Since the boy is just a stranger, the chief decides he is the perfect sacrifice for their ritual. They plan to use a hypnotic drug to dull his senses before throwing him to the beast underground. As the sky grows heavy, the chief justifies his cruelty, claiming small sacrifices keep the entire village safe. With a sinister glint in his eyes, he asks if saving his people isn't worth one measly life. Years ago, a massive snake appeared that ate humans, but thankfully kept all other monsters at bay. The villagers live in a state of constant panic, never knowing when the next invasion will destroy them. Standing alone, the chief reflects on his heavy burden. Convinced this is his only duty as their leader, he claims to have no regrets, truly believing he is a hero for making these trash-tier moral choices. For days pass in an ominous silence as the village prepares for the upcoming blood sacrifice. The ritual finally begins as the hooded villagers gather with torches to carry out their grim trash-tier task. Our boy is completely out of it, being hauled like a sack of potatoes toward his inevitable doom. They reach the sacrificial pit, prepared to toss a living human into the dark abyss waiting below. Kim Woo-hyun hits the wooden floor hard, still trapped in a drug-induced slumber. While his captors watch, the villagers offer a hollow apology to the outsider, hoping his death buys them a few more days. The village chief justifies the betrayal, convinced that sacrificing one life is the only way to save everyone. Suddenly, the floor gives way and he plummets into the dark, leaving the flickering torchlight far behind. Deep in the shadows, a massive, scaly terror stirs, sensing that its long-awaited meal has finally arrived. This beast has been nesting here for years, guarding its brood while the terrified villagers feed its hunger. The great serpent opens its maw with a terrifying hiss, bearing venomous fangs to swallow him whole. The village chief walks back toward the pit, expecting to find nothing but bones and lingering regret. He notes that a full day has passed since they tossed our boy into that literal death trap. He figures the beast has already finished its meal and plans to lure it further north next. Suddenly, his footsteps come to a grinding halt as he senses something is very wrong in the darkness. His face pales, and he stands there completely dumbfounded by the impossible sight waiting for him. Emerging from the shadows, Kim Soo-hyun looks completely unfazed, as if he just took a light nap. Our boy stands over the decapitated serpent and casually asks the mayor why he is visiting. The chief starts sweating bullets, unable to comprehend how a trash-tier outsider could survive this nightmare. His hands tremble as he stares at the dead Calamity, wondering if this kid is even human. Kim Soo-hyun just gives him a cold look, clearly done playing games with these backstabbing villagers. Kim Woo-hyun calls him out, noting the chief seems pretty upset that the monster actually died. The village chief fumbles for words, his face twisting in a mix of pure terror and disbelief. He grits his teeth, clearly struggling to maintain his composure while his secrets start to unravel. Desperate, the old man claims his betrayal was for the village, using the snake as a shield. Our boy isn't buying it, and asks if he was really protecting the people, or just himself. The chief freezes up, his silence speaking volumes as the weight of the accusation hits him hard. Standing by the carcass, Soo-hyun explains that this lazy beast only stays put if it is constantly fed. He adds that the snake has a peculiar habit of never eating the hand that feeds it. The chief's eyes widen as he realizes his cozy arrangement with the monster has been completely exposed. Soo-hyun steps forward, guessing the chief used the sacrifices to secure his own safety from the tower. Soo-hyun stares down the old man, calling him out for playing hero while feeding his own people to a monster. As our boy approaches, he makes it clear that the chief's pathetic reign of hypocrisy is finally over. Broken and exposed, the chief collapses in the dirt right next to the massive dead serpent he once worshipped. The truth hits the villagers like a truck, leaving them absolutely dumbfounded by their leader's long-term betrayal. Murmurs ripple through the crowd as they realize the earth god they honored was just a hungry, lazy beast. One woman breaks down, realizing her husband was murdered for a lie rather than a sacred sacrifice. Some still worry, wondering if the snake was a necessary evil to keep even worse monsters at bay. They demand to know how Soo-hyun will fix this mess, and he calmly offers to help them out. The crowd goes silent, stunned that this stranger would bother cleaning up the trash-tier mess left behind. Reaching into his gear, our boy tells them he has something special to show them to settle their fears. He reveals a clutch of glowing eggs, explaining these are the offspring of the monster they once feared. The villagers stand there completely dumbfounded, unable to process that their nightmare has left behind a legacy. Our boy explains that these snakes won't harm their feeders, making them the perfect biological defense system. He reassures the terrified crowd that the era of human sacrifice is officially over for their village. Instead of blood, they'll feed the hatchlings other monsters, turning their former predators into loyal guardians. While he offers to handle the initial hunting, he makes it clear his help won't last forever. Since he's just an outsider passing through, the villagers eventually need to man up and take charge. One man snaps back, arguing that simple farmers with trash-tier tools can't possibly hunt dangerous monsters. Soo-hyun just stares back, asking if they actually care about protecting the place they call home. He reminds them that if they won't fight for their own lives, nobody else is going to. Soo-hyun gives them a brutal ultimatum, telling them to either fight or keep sacrificing their own people. The villagers stand there completely dumbfounded, paralyzed by the harsh reality of their own cowardice. Our boy realizes they lack any will to protect themselves, choosing instead to stay shackled by dependency. He reflects on how weak heroes like the chief are born solely from the selfish wills of others. Looking at their hollow faces, he regrets having any hope for people who have already given up. Just as he decides to find another way to clear the stage, a sudden shout rings out. He is genuinely surprised that someone actually has the guts to speak up in this hopeless place. A woman and a young boy step out from the crowd, finally breaking the cycle of silence. Soo-hyun recognizes the kid from earlier, seeing a flicker of something different in his eyes. Though he is clearly terrified, the boy insists on helping, proving that not everyone here is trashier. The kid looks up at our boy, declaring his dream to become strong enough to protect his people. Soo-hyun stares back, dumbfounded that such a tiny spark of courage could exist in this trash-tier village. A genuine smile breaks across his face as he tells the kid he is actually pretty awesome. He addresses the crowd, explaining that their combined strength is the only way to truly save their home. Seeing a mere child step up finally starts to melt the icy fear gripping the rest of the villagers. One of the older men trembles, realizing how pathetic they have been while hiding behind a boy's bravery. He finally snaps and shouts that they will fight. Since dying, fighting beats being slaughtered like cattle. Suddenly, the silence is shattered as everyone else starts chiming in, finally finding their long-lost backbone. A villager admits they were just too terrified to act, but they cannot keep leeching off Soo-hyun's strength. One villager finally finds his voice and asks our boy to teach them how to actually fight back. Soo-hyun is caught off guard when a system window suddenly pings, reacting to the change in the villagers' hearts. It turns out their collective willpower pushed his quest completion to 60%, making his efforts feel worth it. He realizes the time for talk is over and prepares to turn these cowards into a real fighting force. Meanwhile, in the damp darkness of a hidden cave, something far more sinister is starting to wake up. The village chief seeths with hatred, calling Soo-hyun an arrogant bastard for disrespecting his absolute rule and authority. He descends the stone steps toward a massive beast, desperate to reclaim control through a dark, ancient pact. A terrifying cackle fills the air as the monster begins to stir in response to its master's presence. The creature's massive eye snaps open, revealing a hunger that spells absolute disaster for the entire village. The village chief is absolutely livid, swearing that he will wipe everyone out for challenging his absolute authority. High above the village, the sounds of a chaotic struggle echo through the darkened cloud-covered sky. It turns out the villagers have been capturing monster hatchlings to use as a twisted form of insurance. They worry that if they stop feeding these beasts in the village basement, they will be eaten alive. While they gossip, our boy is already busy facing down a massive trash-tier centipede monster in the clearing. The beast lunges with terrifying speed, but Soo-hyun and LT, Unk and GT's regressor instincts keep him one step ahead of its mandibles. He grits his teeth, pouring every ounce of his mana into a strike that needs to end this quickly. With a single blinding flash of blue energy, he carves through the monster like it is nothing but paper. Dumbfounded by his strength, the villagers can only shout out to the outsider who just saved their skins. Villagers tell our boy to retreat as night falls, but he insists on finishing the trash-tier monster first. He checks his status window, frustrated that the floor's completion rate is stuck at a measly 90%. Standing over the carcass, he wonders if the missing village chief is the key to hitting that perfect score. Suddenly, a low tremor vibrates through his boots, signaling that something far bigger is waking up nearby. The shaking intensifies until the very earth begins to scream under the weight of an approaching presence. Our boy freezes, his regressor instincts screaming that he is no longer the biggest predator in this clearing. A blinding pillar of celestial energy tears through the atmosphere, shattering the quiet of the 10th floor. From the light emerges a majestic creature of myth, leaving Soo-hyun completely dumbfounded by its overwhelming pressure. It is the divine bird of blue fire, the only natural predator capable of hunting the legendary Great Serpent. The divine bird lets out a piercing shriek, its blue flames scorching the very air around it. Our boy finally realizes that this majestic creature is the missing piece to his 100% completion goal. Meanwhile, the trash-tier village chief creeps out of the shadows. Wearing a look of pure delusional greed, he gloats about how his sleeping poison worked perfectly, admiring the bird he thinks he has finally tamed. The old man actually believes controlling this monster will make the villagers treat him like a hero again. Suddenly, the divine bird snaps its head toward him, its glowing eyes showing absolutely zero mercy for its captor. The chief starts sweating bullets, desperately claiming he is the one who raised it from a mere chick. Ignoring his pathetic pleas, the bird unleashes a torrent of blue fire that completely swallows the treacherous old man. As he turns to ash, the chief can only wonder why his master plan went south so fast. The trash-tier chief realizes his mistake too late as the blue flames begin to erase him from existence. Our boy is genuinely dumbfounded by the sheer destructive power radiating from the creature he needs to tame before he can even process the blast. The divine bird takes flight, heading straight for the defenseless village. Knowing he can't let the village burn, he kicks his regressor reflexes into high gear and starts sprinting. He pushes his body to the limit, desperate to catch up before the Avon Calamity reaches its destination. With a massive burst of speed, he launches himself into the air, hoping his momentum is enough. Mid-flight, he draws his blade, focused entirely on intercepting the majestic beast before it's too late. He grits his teeth, pouring every ounce of his mana into this one desperate attempt to close the gap. But gravity is a cruel mistress, and he realizes with horror that he's still just out of reach. The divine bird glares down with predatory eyes, ready to turn everything into ash. Our boy's heart sinks as he realizes the sheer speed of this trash tier situation. A massive shock wave sends him flying backward, his defenses completely shattered by the Aven's power. He tumbles through the air, blood trailing behind him as his vision begins to blur. He refuses to give up here, screaming internally that he can't let this timeline end in failure. He watches helplessly as the blue flame bird glides toward the village he promised to protect. His gear is a mess, but he desperately reaches for anything to stop his fatal descent. Gritting his teeth through the pain, he forces his broken body to move one last time. Meanwhile, the villagers look toward the horizon, wondering if their unlikely savior is still standing. The villagers are absolutely amazed that our boy has been fighting for days without a wink of sleep. He swings through the air, using every trick in his arsenal to stay in this trash tier fight. One villager brags that he was just as fast back in his prime, though he is clearly dreaming. Suhune sticks the landing on a stone pillar, his movements sharp despite the exhaustion racking his frame. Suddenly, the locals' casual chatter dies out as a massive, terrifying shadow looms over their heads. The divine bird of blue fire descends from the heavens, its predatory gaze locked onto the village. Its yellow eyes burn with a cold intensity, signaling that the real hunt is only just beginning. The villagers are completely dumbfounded, realizing their unlikely savior might not be enough to stop this calamity. Fear takes hold as they can barely squeeze out a word. Paralyzed by the Aven's overwhelming presence, the villagers lose their minds and scream in terror as the blue flame predator closes in for the kill. Our boy isn't just watching, though, as he launches a weighted blade straight into the air. The rope finds its mark, wrapping tightly around the creature's beak to ground the flying menace. Suya knows he can't reach the bird normally, so he's forcing a connection by any means necessary. He grips the rough rope with everything he's got, ignoring the strain on his already battered body. With the bird finally snagged, he prepares to pull off a move that is pure insanity. Despite the blood dripping from his face, he declares that he is borrowing the beast's power. He triggers his transformation skill, letting the blue flames flow through the rope and into his veins. A massive burst of energy erupts as the two souls collide, beginning a high-tier evolution midair. Our boy is pushing himself so hard he looks like a completely different person right now. Hess being dragged through the sky, tethered to the legendary predator by nothing but sheer willpower. The divine bird stares back with glowing eyes. Realizing its prey has turned into a parasite, Suhune knows his transformation skill has limits, but he's willing to break his body to win. Blue flames surge through the rope, turning a simple tool into a conduit for pure destruction. He reaches for his blade, knowing this is the only chance he'll get to strike. His eyes ignite with a feral light as the beast's power begins to overwrite his own humanity. The heat is unbearable, making him scream as the blue fire threatens to incinerate him from within. His vision blurs, and he feels his grip slipping, nearly succumbing to the overwhelming pressure. Memories of the apocalypse and the dragon that killed him fuel his dying resolve to survive. Su Hyun looks at the pendant he once thought was trashed here. Realizing it might be his only lifeline left, our boy locks in, his gaze sharpening even as the blue flames threaten to consume his very soul. He tells himself to focus, channeling every ounce of his remaining willpower into the glowing artifact. Turns out Charles' treasure isn't useless, instantly mending his broken body for one more round of absolute hell. With his strength restored, he leaps high above the flaming Aven to prepare a final desperate gambit. He knows this is his only shot, plummeting toward the beast with his blade and resolve held high. He drives his sword home, the impact sending massive shock waves of mana through the bird's legendary form, screaming with every bit of his soul. He demands the creature finally stay down and just die. A massive explosion rocks the entire village, the sheer force of the collision, leveling everything in its wake. When the dust settles, both the hunter and the hunted lie broken in craters, their fates completely uncertain. Our boy is barely clinging to consciousness as the world goes blurry around him. He finally lets go, his vision fading to black as exhaustion overrides his survival instincts. Suddenly, the little girl's desperate screams for her savior pierce through the silence of the aftermath. He bolts upright with a frantic cry, his body wrapped in bandages and screaming in protest. Looking around, he's dumbfounded to find himself safe in a bed instead of a monster's stomach. The kid is bawling with relief, thinking he'd been roasted alive by that legendary blue flame. Outside, the village is quiet, but every muscle in his body feels like it's been through a meat grinder. The villagers joke about the bird being a massive feast, thanking him for solving their food crisis. He sits there stunned, wondering how he survived a literal inferno with nothing but a few bruises. They start calling him a hero, but he just chalks it up to pure dumb luck and high-tier resilience. Kim Soo-hyun is barely awake when the little girl lunges at him, sobbing with pure, unfiltered relief. She clings to him like a lifeline, finally feeling safe after the nightmare of the great serpent. Suddenly, system alerts flood his vision, confirming he's cleared the floor with a perfect 100% achievement score. He realizes the villagers are finally safe from destruction, feeling a rare, quiet sense of accomplishment. Seeing his first place ranking, he sighs, knowing his presence in the tower is about to get very noisy. Our boy takes a moment to process the weight of his new reputation while his body recovers. The room fills with grateful villagers who hail him as their savior, promising to never forget his deeds. Being called a savior feels strange to a man who's already seen the entire world in once. With his injuries stable, he leaves the warmth of the village to continue his relentless, lonely climb. He stands before the glowing gate, ready to leave this floor behind and face the next trash tier trial. Our boy realizes his stealthy exit failed when he hears a small voice calling out to him. He awkwardly scratches his head, admitting he wanted to slip away quietly to avoid any emotional goodbyes. The little girl looks up at him with eyes full of genuine gratitude and a hint of sadness. She reaches out, offering a small, humble pouch she carefully prepared as a final parting gift. She tells him to eat the fruit she picked whenever he's hungry, cheering him on with everything. Soo-hyun is caught off guard by the simple kindness, a stark contrast to the tower's usual cruelty. Waving goodbye, she reveals her name as Melly and wishes her savior luck on his long journey. He gives a rare, genuine smile and bids her farewell before finally stepping toward the next floor. Meanwhile, back in the real world, a luxury car tears through the city streets at high speed. Inside sits Choi Hak-jun, the future mass murderer, looking like he's already bored of his current life. Hak-jun is snapped out of his boredom when a voice asks if he's actually feeling nervous. Turns out the big boss of the Aries Guild is the one riding shotgun and checking his temperature. Young Dong-young just laughs it off, claiming the top rookie in the game has no reason to sweat since he already conquered the 15th floor. The guild leader believes he's easily a rank material by now. Our boy Hak-jun doesn't seem impressed, keeping his usual deadpan expression while staring into the distance. The leader looks satisfied, clearly proud of the monster is currently grooming for the top spot. Suddenly, the conversation shifts as the veteran hunter brings up the topic of other promising rookies. Hak-jun is visibly shaken when he hears that Kim Soo-hyun is already on the guild's radar for ranking. Young Dong-young follows his gut, knowing anyone who cleared the 10th floor that fast is a real threat. Hak-jun can only feel pity knowing that catching this man's eye usually leads to a very messy end. Young Dong-young makes it clear that if Jun runs into Kim Soo-hyun, he better recruit him immediately. Our boy Jun just stares back, wondering if the guild leader actually knows what he's asking for. He contemplates the idea of being Soo-hyun's support, thinking it might finally grant him some much-needed freedom. They finally arrive at the Awakened Certification Authority, the place where rookies officially prove their worth. Stepping out of the car, Hak-jun carries the weight of a future mass murderer. While blending into the crowd, the guild leader reminds him that everything for his climb into the abyss will be ready very soon. He drops a heavy warning, telling Hak-jun to come straight back once the ranking exam is over. If Hak-jun even thinks about betraying the guild, Dong-young promises to make everyone he cares about suffer. Despite the blatant threat, Hak-jun masks his rage with a trash-tier fake smile to keep appearances. He casually agrees to the terms, though his mind is already miles ahead of his arrogant boss. Hak-jun sighs to himself, feeling like a total wreck as he enters the building to face his fate. He keeps his head down, trying to ignore the crushing weight of the guild's expectations on his shoulders. Meanwhile, our boy Soo-hyun checks his phone, relieved that he actually managed to make it here on time. It's been ages since he last took a rank exam, and the nostalgia is hitting him surprisingly hard. He looks up at the massive facility, knowing this is the first real step toward changing the future. The Awakened Certification Authority is basically the government-run mecca, where every rookie's potential is officially judged. Soo-hyun approaches the front desk, calmly, telling the receptionist that he's here to receive a brand new rank. While most people are just hunting for a quick payday, he's only interested in the dungeon's hidden secrets. A staff member leads him into the waiting area, where the air is thick with nervous energy. Nearby, other candidates are already being scanned to see if they have the potential to become true heroes. Suhune notices scouts lurking nearby, thinking they certainly have hawk eyes for spotting any new talent. The staff member tells him to wait for his turn, and our boy politely offers his thanks. Suddenly, a loud shouting match erupts, causing everyone in the waiting area to freeze in surprise. Turns out some trash tier player is losing it because his mana level only qualified for AD rank. The guy gets physical, aggressively grabbing the terrified doctor by his collar while demanding an explanation. He blames the staff for changing the rules and claims they are intentionally sabotaging his career. Su Hyen watches the mess, thinking that while rank affects income, this guy is acting like a total clown. The angry player loses what is left of his mind and tries to throw a heavy, uncoordinated punch. Before it connects, Cho Hakjin suddenly intervenes and mocks the guy for relying on such pathetic cheap tricks. Our boy is left dumbfounded. Realizing he just ran into a future mass murderer way ahead of schedule, Hakjin notices a suspicious artifact on the guy's wrist that is designed to artificially boost mana levels during testing. He mocks the trash tier player for being rich enough to buy rare gear, but too weak to actually use it. When a guy tries to act tough, Hakjin effortlessly pins him down and calls out his blatant cheating. He suggests the man should try a fair exam next time, though it would likely end in total failure. A cold smirk plays on Hakjin's face as he clearly enjoys the absolute humiliation of his pathetic opponent. With a terrifying glint in his eyes, he doubts the cheater could even scrape past AD rank legitimately. The disgraced player can only scream in rage. Security arrives to drag the loser out while Hakjin casually brushes the dust off his expensive red coat. As the shouting finally fades into the distance, Hakjin lets out a heavy bored sigh of pure annoyance. He realizes he got a bit too carried away, blaming his current bad mood for the sudden violent outburst. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out, making Hakjin snap out of his irritation and look up. Turns out it is our boy Su Hyun, reminding Hakjin that they actually cross paths back on the second floor. Su Hyun asks if he is remembered while secretly wondering if that murderous aura he felt was just his imagination. As they stand in the quiet hall, Hakjin asks if this is really Su Hyun's first official rank test. Hakjin laughs it off, mentioning that it is his own first time, too, so there is no need for surprises. He points out that most people take this test way earlier, but Su Hyen just claims he had special circumstances. Su Huyin thinks about how he wanted to stay hidden, but he cannot let his mother suffer any longer. Hakjin is floored that Su Hyun reached the 15th floor without even being registered for dungeon rewards yet. His expression turns chillingly serious as he admits that he also had some very personal reasons for waiting. Sensing a dark, familiar energy from the guy, Su Hyun realizes this bastard is definitely not your average rookie. Hakjin is about to introduce himself when the testers call him down to start his official rank evaluation. He laughs and brags about being picked first, leaving our boy sitting there with a forced, awkward smile. Watching him go, Su Hyun remembers that Ares is the exact guild this monster eventually slaughters in the future. The guy walks off with a carefree grin, looking like a typical rookie instead of a future mass murderer. Su Hyun can't help but wonder what drove a talent like him to commit such a horrific bloody atrocity. The results come in fast, and the entire room is dumbfounded when the kid is instantly ranked as tier. Even with a high rank, Hakjin looks bored, and Su Hyun notices he isn't even cracking a real smile. The tension spikes when the announcer finally calls for the unaffiliated rookie Kim Su Hyun to step up next. Hakjin and LT, Unk and GT. S eyes go wide with shock, clearly recognizing the name of the monster who dominated the lower floors. The crowd erupts and whispers, wondering if this is the legendary player who shattered every record on floor 10. Hakjin realizes the guild leader was right and begins searching the crowd for the elusive Kim Su Hyun. He is dumbfounded when he spots our boy casually walking toward the testing area for his turn. Recruiting this guy is his only ticket to freedom, just like the guild leader promised him earlier. Hakjin can't believe the monster he's been looking for is actually standing right in front of him. From the stands, Hakjin watches with bated breath as Su Hyun prepares to reveal his hidden strength. A staff member tells him to inject his mana into the device to begin the official measurement. Hakjin and LT, Unk and GT. S heart hammers against his ribs as he waits to see the true power of a regressor. Su Hyun places his hand on the sensor, and a brilliant purple light begins to pulse from his skin. He focuses his mind, making sure to suppress just enough power so he doesn't shatter the equipment. The mana flows into the tool, and the air in the room suddenly feels incredibly thick and heavy. A massive surge of purple mana erupts, sending a shock wave through the room that catches everyone off guard. Hakjun is completely paralyzed as he feels a crushing pressure that shouldn't belong to a mere rookie. He stares down in disbelief when the announcer calls out our boy's name for the final results. The screen flashes a mediocre C rank, leaving Hakjun absolutely floored because the numbers just don't add up. He knows what he felt was easily A rank material, making him wonder if the machine is just trash tier. The rest of the crowd just shrugs it off, assuming this is just some random kid with a common name. The staff member tells Soo-hyun to head out for his registration while our boy keeps his poker face on. Soo-hyun doesn't let a single emotion slip, perfectly hiding the fact that he just manipulated the entire test. Hakjun stands there questioning his own sanity, wondering if he actually found the monster he was looking for. He finally slumps back into his seat, completely drained after trying to make sense of that impossible power. Hakjun is dumbfounded, trying to convince himself the machine was right and that nobody can actually fake their rank. He figures even a genius couldn't pull that off unless they were cut from the same cloth as legends. Meanwhile, our boy just laughs internally, glad that his little act worked perfectly on everyone watching. He recalls a brief moment of panic when his mana almost went wild due to his sudden power spike. It makes sense though, considering his stats hit a whole new level after he cleared that 10th floor. The rewards were top tier, too, especially the new power he feels coursing through his fingertips right now. He checks his status window, admiring the new Divine Flame skill and his massively buffed physical attributes. Accessing the high difficulty shop was the real win, offering items that make standard potions look like trash tier water. Out of everything available, he ended up gambling his points on a mysterious, unidentified divine beast egg. He stares at the tiny thing, wondering if he made a mistake since he has no idea what's inside. He remembers legends of lucky players using divine beasts to skyrocket their way into the high ranker tiers. However, looking at his own silent egg, he starts worrying he might have purchased a total dud. His internal grumbling is cut short when a familiar voice suddenly calls out to him from the stairs. It turns out Cho Hakjun was just taking a bathroom break and hadn't actually left the area yet. When asked about his results, our boy plays it cool and claims he only managed a C rank. The red-haired genius looks suspicious, but a sudden angry shout from across the lobby interrupts their conversation. That trash-tier cheater from earlier is back, losing his mind over how hard he worked for his rank. Soo-hyun immediately recognizes the loudmouth and wonders if the guy is actually dumb enough to seek revenge. Before things get messy, Cho Hakjun steps forward to deal with the aggressive rookie himself. Our boy just watches, realizing this is the perfect chance to gauge the future mass murderer's true power. The trash-tier cheater suddenly freezes, his face pale as he realizes that someone terrifying is standing right behind him. Before Cho Hakjun can even react, a massive presence looms over the loudmouth, leaving our boy completely dumbfounded. A hand glowing with eerie green mana slams in the guy's back, forcing a painful scream from him. A man with a sharp goatee casually greets Cho Hakjun, asking why the young genius is so late. He maintains a chilling smile while the rookie coughs up blood, totally helpless against such overwhelming power. While our boy wonders who this monster is, Cho Hakjun nervously identifies the man as his own guild master Aster. The man tosses the broken player aside like literal garbage, making Soo-hyun realize they aren't cut from the same cloth. This is Young Dong-yong, the powerhouse leading the Ares Guild, and he tells his subordinate to drop the formalities. He casually grinds his heel into the fallen cheater's face, showing exactly how he treats those who are beneath him. Our boy watches the brutal display with an intense gaze, already calculating how to handle this dangerous new player. Young Dong-yong pulls Cho Hakjun close, telling the rookie to drop the formalities and act like family. His gaze suddenly shifts, sensing that the quiet kid